then to further discuss the options regarding the lasers, because obviously you can keep the power, the laser columns there themselves, or just take them away at a cost between 10 to 15,000. And then otherwise, if you do decide to keep them, the future options would be regarding to whether you want to use it. The options are then obviously to look at global protectors to bring in some extra revenue, and also then look at the options of using the £22,000 for the GoPros to either look into further assets later on. They would be better off using that money to invest in better GoPros rather than a single protection. You can get a multiple protection GoPro instead.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harris.
Sorry, I'm afraid I'm not quite sure whether that has answered the question that we were asking, because some of those figures up there are obviously far more than the 45k. Now, are we, if we vote for option 4, if we vote for the whole wording that's on the screen at the moment, are we committing ourselves to any of those things in option 4, or are we just saying, let's have a picture of those for future reference later on in the year?
Yeah. So indeed, yes, indeed. So at the moment, we would say option 1 and option 2 would be to do within the next year, and then if you want to discuss later on options further on regarding the 4, A, B, and C, that can then be brought up as time if we can come back with finance and governance and get some money together where we could spend future funds and come back to you to say, actually, yes, we can have this option in 2 years' time or 3 years' time. Look at this option, that option.
Thanks, Taylor.
Can I just ask, did the working group have an opinion on option 4? Were they in favour of A, B, or C as a working group, or did they not put forward any recommendation there?
Would anyone from the working group be able to answer that question?
I could probably ask that.
Councillor Weather.
If Councillor Dickinson can please carry on, because you're on the committee.
Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. The reason that I think Shane's put these in, A, B or C, is that we come up at a future date, because it says, number 1, we must do, number 2, we've got to do, then 3 is discuss the future of the laser columns, which again is in the future, and option 4 is again to go to finance and governance and say, which one of these can we do? So it's in that 10-year plan.
I think the easiest way then, Councillor Dickinson, I know you've got a proposal that's on the table and seconded, is that really we should be taking 1, 2, and probably 5 together, and then maybe a second resolution for 3 and 4. The working group continue to look at those 2 options and come back to environment and services with a more detailed plan on the preference for both the laser columns and the options listed in 4. So whether you want to draw your proposal or amend it to that, it's up to you. But I'm going to go to Councillor Furman first.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Dickinson, on that number 4, they're not recommendations to spend money, are they? They're just like investigations.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that the only one that is a little bit ambiguous is B, because it says specifically mount smaller single custom glass GoPro projectors. Why don't we just, instead of mount, investigate smaller single, and that way there's no actionable wording in there that we get ourselves caught in, and it can all go in the recommendation, because then it would just be an investigation by officers. We're just instructing them to look into it in whatever way, rather than have to choose one. We can choose all of them and kind of be a bit, open with that. Does that make sense? Sorry, I'm happy to be corrected.
We're going to probably defer to Shane on this, but from my view here, it's asking us to steer officers in which one of those we want further information on. And Exactly, I don't have information, I saw some demonstrations at Carroll's by the coast. I couldn't tell you which one of those lighting options that demonstration was. Shane, have you got any further advice?
Yeah, so basically, the smaller go-go single projections, for the 7 to be mounted onto our laser columns would cost £22,000. There is other alternatives at the moment regarding the suppliers of them, if that makes sense. So that's just from one person or one organisation to get that cost. The actual ones that were done on the Carroll one was the actual multiple bigger version of the go-go set out in the report, and that's obviously that particular one can do sliding with different type of projectors of images, and that's roughly between £7,000 and £11,000. So there's a big difference in prices regarding.
Councillor Harris.
I think I'd like to follow up your suggestion, Chairman, and put to the committee that we agree items 1, 2 and 5, and we also agree to ask officers in the steering group to continue with their discussions on 3 and 4.
Okay, so if we make an amendment, if we make that as an amendment then to the recommendation that's on being proposed, I'm happy then to. Do you want to propose it, Councillor Harris? Or do you want?
I'm happy to propose.
You're happy to propose, and I'm happy to second.
You withdrawn your. No, you said.
We're going to make it the amendment. So we now have an amendment on the table, members, which is to propose, as Councillor Harris said, 1, 2, and 5 as in the report, and request that the officers and steering committee working group come back with further information on items 3 and 4. So that is now what we are debating. Is there any further comments on that amendment? If we can move to the amendment known to a vote, all those in favour? It's unanimous. That now becomes substantive. Is there any comments? Moving forward to the vote on the substantive, proposed by Councillor Harris again, seconded by Councillor Dickinson. I see in the hand up. All those in favour? That is carried. And thank you very much, Shane and working group, for bringing this report in good detail. And it's very much the start of a journey, as Councillor Weller said. So
Thank you.
but don't disappear, Shane. You're up again for item 10 on our agenda, refurbishment of Cove Street toilets. Shane, can I ask you to introduce, and then I will hand it over again, to the non-committee members for their input.
Thank you once again, Chair. In October 2023, 120,000 of the Community Infrastructure Levy Fund was allocated to public toilets. This report seeks committee support and further discussion of the officer's recommendation as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shane. Taking my list now of members who aren't on the committee, Councillor Wakeling, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the committee, I've been on the working group. I have 16 years experience running hospitality businesses for large chains, and I've seen my fair share of good toilets and bad refurbishments. I've directly managed cleaning and maintenance for these for many years, and I'm well aware of the issues and pitfalls. I've also done significant research this year, visiting many public toilets and examining them with this refurbishment paper in mind, and I've shared my findings with the working group. I'm sorry to say, in 2023, most of the town council's toilet stock is in the bottom 10% of public toilets as you go around the place. Our facilities are firmly trapped in the 20th century and far from the expectations of us, our residents and visitors to our town. Most of the current toilets are, quite frankly, a source of embarrassment. Even our best site, the Superloo, is barely middle of the range if you go and look around the country. If you compare our toilets to Wetherspoons, they're not good. I'm concerned we're looking to spend £120,000 of public money here, and we're getting little more than a redecoration of this facility. Our toilets are so dated and so overdue for a full overhaul. Some fresh tiles and fresh porcelain isn't enough. I will tell you a very brief story about a pub I was involved with. They did a very brief redecoration on it. They repainted it, they retiled it, fresh porcelain, new floors. It looked good for about a month, and then the smell started to come back and the smell of fresh paint faded. The drains haven't been changed, so you could still smell years and years of urine baked into those. And the problem was, it was fine for the first 3 weeks, but you don't want to spend a large sum of money and for it to just basically for a veneer. It's not worth it. On the subject of refurbishment, details really matter. Our existing sites have an extensive catalogue of small design flaws, historic, a lot of them. A lot of the hand dryers have got a 4-inch exposed cable underneath. It's a real pain to clean. We've exposed pipe work where there shouldn't be. We've got flooring with square corners instead of mitered ones. But each of these adds to the daily cleaning burden. I believe we've got in the region of 120 individual toilets around the town. If you add on 30 seconds to your daily cleaning and you multiply that 120 times, that's an hour a day. 364 hours a year, which is 10 full working weeks, 364 hours. So if you make a tiny little mistake and you repeat it across our whole estate, that at the end of the year, that has taken us 10 hours of cleaning. And that's a recurring every year. We're going to be paying for those things. So that's why the details really, really matter. Because that's a significant cost for our taxpayers and it's making our staff, our cleaners' lives harder. And we don't want to do that. We want to make our cleaners' job as easy as possible. We've got a property maintenance budget for repairs and redecoration, and my understanding of us allocating this extra sum was to do a full overhaul, to really get to the meat of the problem. And so I'm hoping, and I'm slightly disappointed, I don't feel this paper is really going to blitz it and get us a fresh new toilet, because it's a significant sum. I'd like to briefly comment on the charging, which is also on here. So the working group have discussed charging back and forth. I feel, and I think the other members of the working group will agree, charging is a question of when, not if. Our toilets cost our residents a fortune. And historically, we've underspent on refurbishment, which has resulted in the current situation, which now needs fixing. With increasing utilities, increasing staff wages and increasing refurbishment costs, the bill for these toilets is just going to increase in future years. In the summer months, a large percentage of other users of the toilets are not local people who are paying for them, but they're visitors from out of town who are not paying anything into the town council's coffers. I've visited other tourist towns doing research, and almost universally, the facilities are better than our own and are charging a small usage fee. It's now common. However, we must learn from our mistakes here. The beach office was rebuilt, and members have said, originally the plans were to be inward facing, so there was a single entry for charging. And at some stage that plan got changed. This council discussed this in 2019, and it was just unviable to add charging to the design that was built, because there's too many doors, 23 external doors. So that's something we don't want to repeat, certainly. The only other charging facility is the Swannery, and that has a different floor. There are multiple cubicles behind each door. It's like that door, to be honest. You swipe your card and you can open it and you can hold it open for lots of people to go through. And if you sit and watch the Swannery, this happens. Somebody opens it and they let 3 people in, and then when they're coming out, they let an extra person in. The difference is, Cove Street, in my opinion, from my observations, is a busier site, which will actually make that problem worse. And people are polite. It's very nice that people are polite and hold the door open, but actually, if we're trying to cover the costs of the facility, we need something that collects money efficiently, not allows people just to let people in. I've asked for the data, the gross income for the toilets at the Swannery and the water consumption, so we can try and quantify that gap, how efficient it is. The officers have not been able to provide me with the data to do that calculation, so I can't sit here and tell you how good or bad the Swannery is at collecting money, because we just don't know. So I am very loath to support the paper in its current format. I think the working group has been at stalemate over this issue, so members may wish to consider giving a steer or setting a bar and asking the working group to reconsider this paper. I say that reluctantly because I know if you don't make a decision tonight, next season is out. Effectively, we're at the 11th hour on this autumn period. But in my opinion, we don't want to spend a huge sum of money and get it wrong. We want to get this right.
Councillor Wakeling, sort of 5 minutes are coming to an end, so I'm going to ask you to sort of try and wind up.
I'm finished, thank you, Chair. So I feel we can only commit to a toilet to get it absolutely right. I feel this paper still needs some more work to it. And if members of this committee would like to join the working group, some fresh blood might also be very welcome. I will finish. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, councillor Wakeling. Just want to quickly just clarify one point that was made there, and then maybe hand over to the assistant town clerk. And that's really to remind the committee here this evening what we are here to look at, and that is the recommendation made by full council with the allocation of seal. And that recommendation and directive from full council, the Environment and Services Committee will be asked to determine a priority list for refurbishment, having considered any changes to the design, layout and implementations around Disability and Discrimination Act compliance. That is what this committee was asked to do by pretty much ourselves, as well as members of the full council. Councillor Wakeling, you also made reference to the toilet working group. Again, we have discussed it several times. The refurbishment of toilets is not within the remit of that working group. Assistant Town Clerk, would you like to add anything before we open this up further?
No, it was just to reiterate that the toilet working group was to look at service standards, quality of existing facilities, toilet provision, opening times for facilities, and how the service can respond to the default master plan as it emerges. It was nothing about setting specifications and so forth.
Thank you very much. So members, just obviously we remind you of the scope of the discussion here. It's within the recommendations and that directive. And first to speak on the list is Councillor Roos.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I think that from what Councillor Wakeling was saying, there's maybe a bit of room to look at maybe functionality over aesthetic of the toilets, if that's, you know, where we need to focus, making sure that they run properly over whether they have nice tiles, I suppose. That's one point. But I'm going to say I don't support the recommendation of number 3. My reasons are, if we go by statistics, 14 million people in this country have incontinence. And also on top of that, 6.5 million people have bowel problems. 50% of adult women have urine incontinence. That's all adult women. 50% have urine incontinence. 75% of women over 65 have urinal incontinence. So that's 1 in 5 people in this population that shouldn't have to pay to use toilets. I see that in a town where we have high levels of poverty and where incontinence can affect dignity and well-being, it's important to be able to offer those facilities without there being a cost. And even if we were talking about how much money we would make from the toilets, if you increased council tax by £1 for the whole year, you would more than cover the cost of those toilets that they would bring in. You know, if you're looking at £6,000 to £8,000 in 50 pences, that people maybe who are elderly or struggling to walk, open doors, etc., going to the toilet and then having to suddenly whip out a card to pay 50p, to me is unethical. I understand that places like Exeter might charge for their toilets, but that's a city and we have a growing elderly population. A lot of them don't go out with their cards on them, ready to spend 50p on a toilet. So I think technically I can't support that. I know other people might disagree with me, but I'd rather put a small increase on the people who can afford it, who are able to pay their full council tax. I'd much rather they pay a little bit extra and give people who've got incontinence issues some dignity when they're desperate for the loo.
Thank you very much, councillor Roos. Very valid points, not noted actually within our impact assessment. Shane, are you able to provide the information on response to that, with not the assistant town clerk?
Apart from talking to the daughter accessibility group, we did bring those issues up along with other disabilities, and at the time the group highlighted to us that obviously they need to find out a balance act, and so a lot of them were saying that they would be happy to pay the 50p or the 30p charge for good quality facilities. But obviously I take on the point that we have got to look at this as a general overview of what would cause issues if you have people with those kind of facilities that they need.
Something we could also. Something we could also consider is radar key systems, so we've got that across all of our facilities. So if it was a single point of, if it was pay on door entry, you can look at those accessible toilets not having them.
Yeah.
Councillor Roos.
Can I just quickly, I did have some other bits to add, but I just want to say, we do have a wonderful incontinence service, so if anybody's wondering that's watching, you can sign for a fare and they are brilliant. But I have to say, a lot of people who have incontinence don't have radar keys. It could be new mums, it could be people who are just getting older. Once a woman's given birth, that will affect her levels of continence, especially as she gets older. This is something that men just don't have to think about, I'm afraid. And that's why sometimes it's worth asking some women, like, what is it like when you need to find the toilet and if you're not walking around with a card on you? The other thing I want to say is, counteracting a little bit of what Luke said earlier, is that I know we might have really low-level toilets here, but the new toilets we have, all the people that I work with, a lot of them with disabilities, actually say they love the new toilets, and it's the one thing they do praise Weymouth Town Council for, is that the new toilets we have on the seafront are really good, and they do work really well for the residents.
Thank you very much, councillor Roos. I've got councillor Harrison and councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to confirm what Shane said about the access group. I was at the meeting with the access group, and one of the important aspects of the spending of that 120k is to ensure that people in a wheelchair can actually get in, their carer can get in with them, they can turn around when they're inside, and it does actually add to that facility and make it a much more accessible facility for many of our people. So it's getting the balance right all the time within the funds that we've got. But certainly Shane went out of his way to actually hear their views, take note of their views, and come up with a design that actually represented those views. So that much I can recommend heartily.
Thank you very much, councillor Harris. Councillor James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don't want to get bogged down in all of this by going on for too long. I had to have a bit of a snigger with Councillor Roos there, because I think some of us over a certain age is slightly need to be put out to pasture. And after having 5 children, I know exactly what you mean, and it isn't very pleasant for a woman, and it's not something that men seem to suffer with an awful lot. I'm now wondering though, what Councillor Wakefield said about all the research that he's done, and I know we've got no sort of set evidence of that. Do we need to really look at this? I get that we want to spend this money on code toilets and what you said about the disabled group, because having worked with them before, yes, they do need that. But do we need to sort of go away and come back with even more? And the charging, although I agree with what Councillor Roos said about if you've got to pay by card and if you haven't got your card handy, signal goes or whatever, a radar key is going to be the best option for that. I still think we should charge, as lots of other towns do charge, and if it's a way of raising income to cover the costs of our toilets, then I think most people that come here on holiday would expect to pay to use the toilet. So But, you know, let's not flush away all the ideas that you've got and, just. Sorry, but you have to do this. Thank you. Christmas is coming, crack the jokes. Thank you.
Well, we're all the crackers on Christmas morning, are we? I wonder if councillor James wrote this one as well. Thank you very much, councillor James. Councillor Taylor.
It's just a quick question on the extras and fittings and all that side of it. Has dementia been taken into consideration with it? Because I understand there's various colours that people with dementia have a problem with. And if it hasn't been taken into consideration, can I suggest you talk with the Alzheimer's Society, because they've got a wealth of information on that. I know we did a lot of work when we converted this building on dementia to make it dementia friendly. And it's one of the things this council wants to do longer term, to make Weymouth as dementia friendly as we can. So if that hasn't been looked at, would it be looked at, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much, councillor Taylor. Shane, any?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, obviously, we will be going out to tender for this contract, so items like dementia and other bits that we're going to highlight to the contractor to provide in terms of seating, having blue seats, and just making things in regards to the DDA, to just make sure everything is compliant. And the actual budget that we've got, we're not looking to spend the maximum of 120, it is approximately, so hopefully we'll be going under budget and using the extra funds then to spend on other toilet facilities.
Thank you very much, councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. A few points. One is just not playing medical top front, but they also have their problems with prostates. We do also require these. So that's big in favour of having accessible toilets. Taking the next point, I was charging. I'm representing Councillor Toft tonight. She was actually in favour of the charging, despite being a female. Just from getting the point of view of getting the some income to pay for the ongoing refurbishments. And I know from personal experience going to other counties, Devon and Cornwall, North Cornwall's not a rich area for the residents, but they do charge for their toilets more than 50p as well. The third point was the use of spill. With this window for getting some toilets refurbished will pass. But I thought the plan was we're going to try and use some of this regular money for a regular programme of maintenance and try and do one each year. And they wouldn't really want us to miss out that window of opportunity to get these toilets done this year. And we can take some of the councillor Wakeling's points and make sure that when the specification is done with the builders, that the double floors and the pipework's all covered so that they're easy to maintain. So hopefully we can pick up those excellent points and still get the thing done with the SIL money this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor Rowe. Councillor Furman.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point, Councillor, could we can still allocate the money but not have the build, can't we? So we'd be able to, in fact, still maintain that investment in the refurbishment across town, but not miss out on them. So there is a bit of halfway work in there, which I think, and I'm just thinking, I mean, yeah, I'm in the working group as well. I'd love it if we had some more councillors in there. It has been a bit of a, not going to use a loo joke or anything, but it has been really trying and difficult because this is one of the big things we have responsibility for, and it's a lot of money. So I'm kind of with Councillor Wakeling on this, that we definitely shouldn't spend where we're not making maximum effect of that money. I think the thing that we always will get, well, you're going to use a toilet reference, that we will get complaints about from residents is the fact that we rush into things and get it wrong. And when we do, we always suffer for that. So I'd rather just take our time and definitely get it right. And I don't know if there's room that we then put, hopefully, some scope with the working group to have input into these refurbishments. So I'd like to see this committee sort of kind of give the working group some rope in terms of guiding officers on that, rather than it just be an officer task, because ultimately this is a big reputational thing and we'll be the ones that get it in the neck. So I think that I'd add number 4, that we also recommend, if we're doing this, to have the working group, guide the refurbishment, kind of, I don't know, somebody come up with some good words for that, you know what I mean? But I'd like members to have a steer on it, I don't want it just to be an officer thing. Because, yeah,
So that need to create a member steering group.
yeah, or the existing working group to steer the refurbishment process. I take the points of the assistant town clerk and the chairman at the beginning, but it seems like Councillor Wakeham's got a lot of passion for this and a lot of experience, and you know, let's make him a little bit more responsible if that's what he wants to take on. If that's right with you, Councillor?
Don't want that on my shoulders.
No, but I want something where we can have more grasp on it, if that's what we're gonna do. I don't want us just to be high roll, you know, this project just go forward because, you know, because we just wanted to spend money.
Councillor Byrne, are you making a proposal?
Yeah. If, I'll yield if any other members have a better idea. So I just, you know, I'd like us to
Can
get it
you
right.
please just give us the clear wording that you wish to be?
Fine, number 4, to allow the working group to guide the refurbishment project, project process. Maybe we'll word that there. Or, yeah, input, yeah. Come on, more experienced members can create these words, yeah.
Can we just try and tie this down to be clear for Nikki? Councillor Byrne, you just give us a very clear indication of what you're proposing.
For the working group to input and give guidance on the refurbishment process.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Councillor Roos, okay. So the amendment now, proposed, sorry, it's not an amendment because we've yet to have a proposal. Sure. The proposal now includes point 4, as proposed by Councillor Furman. What I'm going to do is take that point now as a point 4 and a separate vote on it. Is there any comments on that? Councillor James?
I do see what Councillor Byrne is trying to say, which is why I said that in this paper and with the research that Councillor Wakeham has carried out, could we not come back with something more, a bit more sturdy to it? I don't necessarily agree that we should let members guide or tell the experts that are dealing with it how to do their job, because I think that, you know, that could be a bit of a downfall, and that could backfire again with the public, because they could turn around and say, well, you didn't know what you were doing, you told them that's what you wanted. But I do think with the research, if we have more evidence of the research that Councillor Wakeling has done, to bulk this out a little bit, to say that, you know, there's more to it than this. It's good to have member input, yes, with the working group, but I wouldn't like to say that they've got to influence or tell the expert what to do. So I don't know whether Councillor Wakeling's got any more to say about his work, I don't know.
Councillor James, I'm just going to ask the Assistant Town Clerk to come back on some points.
I think it's worth noting that we value Councillor Wakeling's input, and we have received all this information prior and over the last 8 weeks probably that we've been going backwards and forwards. So we are already aware of the information that has been considered as part of the reform.
Thank you very much. Councillor Well, I can see you're indicating, I'm just going to make sure that first of all, anyone on the committee. Councillor Dickinson.
I can't vote for number 4. We have a brilliant officer in Shane, and I trust his judgment, and I trust that he'll get the best deal for us. Everybody's talking about that it will cost 120,000. It might only cost 60,000. We don't know what the cost is. We don't know what the plans are. So I have every confidence in Shane. Let's leave him to get on with it and get the toilets refurbished.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson. Is there anyone else just on point 4 at the moment before I bring Councillor Weather in? Councillor Gray, I can see you're chomping also. Councillor Weather?
Thank you very much, Chairman, again. previous authority, I was the czar of public toilets, with meetings with the British Toilet Association on a regular basis. Indeed, I have their report on my bookshelf still. It's this big, and I know that Jane has as well. And like Councillor Dickinson, I have every confidence in Shane's recommendations and confidence in what the Working Party were doing as well. I think they've done a good piece of work. I regret to say, I think that, and this comes from the knowledge that I've gleaned and the scars that I bear on the superloos not having been built to the specifications that we as members gave, and I'm not suggesting that that's the case now, but they were not built by our approved specifications, and I bear the scars for that. I think with the knowledge that I have, both Maiden Street and Cove Street, Cove Street, whatever we do, it will be putting a plaster over things, because both those loos need gutting from below ground up. And if at the end of that we have fewer loos, but better and more robust, with proper drains and proper ventilation and everything else, that would be so much better than us putting that plaster on it. However, we are where we are now. And I think that you have to make a decision as a committee. Do we do a plaster again for the coming year, because time is running out and we're coming to an election time with new authority and so on? But long term, with still money help, hopefully, those two are our priorities. They're our priorities, not just for how they look, but they are really, really our priorities on how they function. And neither of them function at the moment. And they're confined within buildings that it's quite difficult to make radical changes unless you go in there and you strip, as I say, strip the whole lot out, dig out, put in modern drainage and modern ventilation, and end up with really good loos that will last you going forward. That's the decision. I think that, you know, it's sort of written there, but it's not, because I think that your initial, and this is no reflection on Shane, I think the terms of reference right at the start weren't tight enough to see, you know, it was, should we refurbish them? Yes, of course we should. Should we refurbish them for the future in the 21st century? Yes, of course we should. So your job, I'm afraid, because this is easy for me sitting over there and putting my nose up every two minutes. Your job is to say, how do we get to that point? So sorry about that, but that is what we need to do.
Thank you very much, Councillor Willett. Jane, any comments back on?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the refurbishment we're looking into will be going down, looking at the drains, taking up some of the actual dense flooring, because over the years there's concrete flooring and tiles, and most of the unfortunate smells come from embedded urine smells in the actual concrete. So we will be doing a remit of taking the most of it out, putting new drains in, and if we go for the higher end of the refurbishment, we want to put a decent extractor unit that recycles air and gets rid of all the bad smells. So it's mainly the actual 120,000 will be going towards that kind of refurbishment. It's not going to be something we're quickly knocking off the part tiles and retightening it. That would be at the medium one, but the higher expectation end are incorporating all of those suggestions in.
Thank you very much, Jane, and hopefully I think that answers some of your concerns, Councillor Willett.
It certainly does. I thought that that's what Shane had anticipated doing, but I wanted confirmation of that, so thank you.
Councillor Gray, I know you've been itching to come on in. Just on, I know you were indicating before the proposal was made, so just at this point on point 4, and I bring you back in when we go back to the main item.
Right, I don't agree with point 4. I think we have to trust the Oxford, and I think I'll say one thing, which is, you know, we talked about toilets for a long time. What we need is data. we need to do a toilet, and every toilet we have is different. Councillor Weller's right, it's not really a great building, but the cost of moving it to another building would be. But we have to do the building, we have to upgrade it. I don't agree, I think we should leave it to the experts to do, I think Councillor James is right, you know, that's what we pay them for. I'll come back on the other bits if you would like.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Gregg. Right, before we move to the vote on point 4, is there any last comments?
Yeah.
You can, yes.
I'll come back on. Okay, thank you, Chairman. I don't see what the sticking point is. It's input and guidance. It's not it's not like the final stamp of approval on it. And Kate, sorry, Councillor Weller, Madam Mayor, she's just talked about the scars that she bore for it. And this is, as Councillor Gray says, a huge long-term plan where we're probably going to, you know, we are going to go into the millions of spend on this. So allowing members just to have input and guidance, I don't see what the big sticking point is. We're spending over £1 million and we're just going to say that, all right, we're going to trust officers. That's lovely. But Councillor Weller just said the beach toilets didn't get done the way it was supposed to. So your only example of a new build toilet and saying that we shouldn't put point 4 in is actually not holding. So I don't know why we can't just put in input and guidance. So I'm not going to withdraw it. I want to support it, and I hope you do too.
Thank you very much. I think the Assistant Town Clerk just wants to come back with a point of clarity.
Just to clarify, we are talking about 120k, not a programme of over £1 million.
But it sets precedent.
Thank you very much. Right, the proposer has summarised. We're now going to move to the debate. All those in favour of the vote. We've had the debate. Been a long day. Just on item 4 at this point, proposed by Councillor Berman and it was seconded by Councillor Roos. All those in favour. Those against? Any abstentions? Check the lineups. Carried. So point 4 is carried. So that agreement now sits with the toilet working group.
Chair, can I just make a
Councillor
point?
James.
I think that the plans for those toilets that were changed, that was not officers, it was certain councillors who managed to persuade that to be changed without being properly dealt with and voted on, so that was, yeah.
I would draw back on
That
that.
was, yeah,
What I
it was
understood
officers.
from the point.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, now I'm guided by yourselves because item 4 basically puts the power back into the working group. But Councillor Gray, you were indicated to come in before we move to item recommendation 4.
I want to make a couple of points around the long-term future of toilets and the investment this council needs to make. We've talked about what needs, we've got a diverse lots of toilets, and I think the solution to each toilet will be bespoke, and Cove Toilets isn't a great example, but it desperately needs doing. So all of the things like charging, we need to stop talking about it, we need to get some data as to whether it works or not. I was really interested in what Councillor Roos said about charging, but the fact is, over half the country, councils do charge, and the cost of providing toilets for use for the visitors is going up and up and up and up. So I couldn't support anything that didn't charge. And I think whether we charge for all toilets or no toilets, we need to find out how much money we're talking about, because it could be that small, but it's not a consideration. And the only figures we've got are from the Swannery, which again isn't an ideal toilet. So I think if you vote for this investment, which I support the paper, I think we need to leave it to officers to put all the things in there that you want to find out about. Do we charge? Is it accessible for disability and all those other things within the constraints of the building? We need actual data. So I would see the working group reviewing the data that comes out of the toilets rather than, because I think the officers know what needs to go in. I don't care what colour a tile it is, and I'll leave the officers to get on with that. But I think the working group can make a real a real steer on what comes out, how much does it make or not make, what feedback have we got, and all those sorts of things. And it isn't really 120,000 because you've got 10 sets of toilets. It's likely to be, if it's not the boat, but this learning that you get from this toilet could roll to Maiden Street, and then to the next one, and then the Swan Reel, whatever. So you need to learn from this, and if you have to chuck things at it from a project point of view to learn whether to do them or not in future ones, I think that's working. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gray. Got a few people wishing to speak. Members, we obviously now need, within the recommendations, to consider that point 4 has gone forward, so that will prevent us actually taking forward 1, 2, and 3 as it's currently written in all cases, because we disagree on that.
Please, what I wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, so in my opinion, and speaking to the assistant town clerk, we've obviously passed a motion here to say that refurbishment needs to go through. And the process needs to go through the working group. So at the moment, as it stands, we cannot dictate the high standard level. We can continue to support item 1 to support the use of the seal up to the top amount. The recommendation would need to be amended as agreed by point 4. So in item 4 now, as part of that recommendation, will change how some of these motion recommendations go forward. So we will need to consider that. But Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chairman. The reason I abstained on item 4 was because it doesn't actually say when. I totally agree that the working group should have an input, and when the plans for a refurbishment are building up, just like Shane went and talked to the access group, so he would talk to the toilet working group about the ideas and about the plans. But it's not saying that the working group has a veto on what can and can't be done. So at some stage in the process, the working group should be included in looking at the refurbishment plans, but not at the stage when it comes to committee. That should have been done before this, and therefore, as it stands, I don't think it reads exactly as you suggested, Chairman. I think it just means that they should be allowed to have an input as and when a refurbishment is built up. And we've gone past that point for this particular set because we've got a refurbishment plan in front of us, which we can agree if we want to, or not agree if we want to. But I think that those words are right, and that in future, every refurbishment plan should go to the working group before it comes to us.
Councillor Harris, are you looking to amend point 4 then to state future refurbishments so that we can carry on as per the paper as planned? That would cover what you just summarised.
I'd be happy to do that. So it would be guidance on future refurbishment processes, on all future refurbishment processes.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Do we have a seconder to that amendment to point 4? Councillor Candy, thank you. Is there any comments on that amendment? Councillor Roos?
I would add a bit more to the amendment, along with what David Gray had mentioned, and to put in there something about using data and learning to feedback.
Just looking at the proposal and second, you happy to include those few words?
Councillor Harris.
Yeah, it's widening the whole role of the toilet group in effect, the scope of it.
So it would be to allow the working group to use data and learning to have input. Yeah.
Happy with those additional words, Councillor Kanji, happy with those additional words, so we can remain as is. Any other comments? We're going to move straight to the vote on that, and then again, just on point 4, proposed by Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Kanji. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Right, councillor Dunn. Against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, Assistant Town Clerk, for picking up. Right, moving back now to the substantive, councillor Roos.
Can I just propose that we take each recommendation separately, each point separately, or vote on? Does it need to be on?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. Okay, is there any other further comments on paper or on recommendations? Councillor Tewkesbury?
Second, councillor Roos' suggestion by taking them separately first.
Yeah, I've already said that we'll do that. I'm not going to take a vote on. Okay, I'm going to move forward then. If there's no one else indicating to speak, I'm going to take each point as requested separately. First of all, can I ask for a proposal? Would anyone like to make a proposal on following the request, item 1? That's for the use of seal receipts. Councillor Rowan, seconded by Councillor Harris. Just checking no further comments on that. Move to the vote, just on item 1. Thank you very much. Item 2, retain the current separate single-sex facilities at Cove Street. Do I have a proposer? Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Dickinson. All those in favour? Those against? Or any abstentions? Just 1 abstention. Item 3, which is to introduce a 50p charging following the refurbishment. Do I have a proposer? Councillor James. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Furman. Any comments on that recommendation? Councillor Bell?
Just will we be putting anything on there about the radar key option? Let's discuss that. Is that feasible? So I can look into it. I mean, the other option would be just to not charge on access to the toilet. I mean, that one has a non-payment. But they will also have to put in some signs, obviously, they don't highlight that these are made for people with accessibility needs.
Just ask the Assistant Town Clerk to come back and then.
I think if it's a single door entry, we need to keep it radar, so suite of toilets. I know that at the statue there isn't a radar key operation, but I think
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Bell. Did you want to come back in?
No, just, well, very briefly, I just think if we have an open door with disabled loo, that will just get used by everyone.
Yeah. Councillor Taylor?
Can I just ask if we need to put a timescale on this, say for it will be reviewed in 5 years or something like that?
Anyone, at any point, the fees and charges can be brought for services by a request by councillors. So we don't really need to, but I don't think a review, because we review the fees and charges yearly, and any member can ask them to come back at any point.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. The working group did discuss this, and it's very complicated. You can buy radar keys 3 for $5 on Amazon, so if you have that, no problem. Could I suggest the committee ask for the report in January at your next meeting on exactly the right option, because then that will give an opportunity to discuss it and actually get all the facts straight, because it's a really complicated one.
Dan Clark?
I beg to differ, Councillor Wakeling. I say I'm not quite sure what's complicated about it. We either charge or go to radar key. I don't see what the other options could possibly be.
I think we've made the comments around radar keys. We've got representatives here now on the working group that are going to be involved in this process or future processes. And obviously now Shane is aware, as well as the Assistant Town Clerk, so I'm sure that the option for the disabled toilets will have either charging or radar key, but that will be done by the officers and reviewed at any committee that needs to be. I don't want to hold up the process waiting to January then. Okay, was there any other comments on the charging recommendation? No, so that was proposed, Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Dickinson. Can I have a vote now, please? Those in favour, show of hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Those against?
1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't think that means any abstentions. That is carried. And item 4 has already been voted on, so we don't need to vote on that again. That does bring us to the conclusion on item 10. Thank you very much, members, and Shane for the input. We look forward to seeing that develop. Thank you very much. There's just been a comment made around joining the Wembley working group, and we're asked for that to be set included in the roundup next Monday. Moving forward, item 11, we have a scrutiny request before us around the purple flag. I'm going to ask the assistant town clerk to introduce this item.
I'm probably going to quickly hand over to Councillor Wakeling on this. Councillor Wakeling submitted a scrutiny request regarding the purple flag, and members are asked to consider this. But I think it's also worth members noting, and I think it is in the report somewhere, that officers are currently considering and reviewing it as part of their current workloads anyway.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, committee. Last year I was invited on the purple flag visit. So we went out for a night with purple flag assessors. It's unfortunately, it was a dry evening for me. My feeling at the end of that was there was not a lot of value in this award. I feel it lacks recognition. Nobody knows what it is. It has a actual cost to us, but also it's got significant administrative cost. And I don't think we fully understand how many days of officer time went into getting a flag that I don't think really returns very much to us. The only thing I'll add is I did ask when we had a briefing with the police sergeant, and he said in his opinion, the most valuable part of it was that they got people networking, which I completely agree with, but it only got networking for one day every other year. Potentially, I think the scrutiny is A, is it worth doing? And B, could we provide the same or better benefits of networking in a cheaper way and get a better benefit for our businesses and residents in a different way? I don't think we need to have the whole discussion tonight. It's just to the committee support the idea of it going away for scrutiny.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wakeling. So the committee discussion at the moment will be whether to take this forward. Just frantically checking my mailbox for our scrutiny process flow to help us inform this decision. So whilst I'm doing that, Councillor Harris.
Yes, I think it's certainly worth having a good look at, and John Orwell and myself are hoping to talk to the bid early in the new year, because as it does cost this council money, but nobody really knows about it. I certainly don't feel we should be paying for the actual bureaucracy at all. I would love to see the networking, and we're wanting to talk to the bid to see whether there is a better way of getting the same good input to our maritime economy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. How much is the cost?
I think it varies per year. I'm looking at Councillor Gray's about 2 in the budget. Yeah, about 2K in the budget.
We have no consideration for officer time, so that's just straight fee.
It's also worth noting, some years you put full application, so last year it was full application, which involved a lot more officer time and it was more of a financial commitment. But this year we did review year, so there wasn't such a financial commitment coming in place.
I support this, so I want to propose that we go ahead with it and not waste any time on it. I do kind of think most young people, even us, don't really care about purple flags, make them appealing at night. Sorry,
If that's what page I'll second.
yeah, that was the proposal.
Thank you very much. Before we move, so that's seconded by Councillor Thurman, but before you move, and sorry, before I take the recommendation and take the vote, I'm just getting the process flow up, which the town clerk's getting up, but councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, does it have to be a town council that apply for this? Bear in mind, it's all to do with the nighttime economy, local businesses. We have an organisation whose primary role in the whole being is to promote business and the nighttime economy. So why don't we just say to the bid, if you wish to continue with it, apply for it on behalf of the nighttime economy, the businesses and all the rest of it. Why should all the cost of officer time and everything be on us, the local authority?
Thank you very much. Members, Frank, still looking at our decision, process flow. I just remind you, we are not here to make a decision tonight, whether or not we should be. Should be here, making a decision. However, members, we have a proposal on a second at the moment, to take this scrutiny forward. However, I cannot find the process over the assistant town clerks just checking standard orders. But I do remember from the scrutiny training we have, and Councillor Taylor, you can probably envision this process flow as well as I can in my mind. There's a question when deciding whether or not we should scrutinise something. Is the scrutiny or that piece of work already being conducted? Will we be duplicating that workload? As a committee, we're being informed tonight by the assistant town clerk that this piece of work is already under review. That was in the introduction to us this evening. So by forming a members' scrutiny, we will be duplicating workload and therefore increasing officers' workload. I would prefer, members, that we are informed here this evening that this is already under review and that we will be receiving a recommendation in the near future from the resort manager, who's reading that this falls under his service plan. He believes we shouldn't be doing this piece of work, and therefore I would actually vote against setting up a scrutiny and wait for that piece of work and that paper to come before council next year. But we are here. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. I was unaware that our resort team were planning this, and I was not informed of it when I put it as because I might have withdrawn it. And I am happy to withdraw my scrutiny form, but I would like to request that members are asked for their input on this, as we represent the taxpayers' money. So, if officers, or we can have a motion that members can be involved in the officer, or just at least we can speak to Will about it, please. I would then withdraw my request.
We are in the middle of a debate, and I'm not going to withdraw the item because we're here now having this debate and it's not on there. Councillor Taylor, can I call on you with your expertise of scrutiny to make some comments?
I'm actually going to disagree with you. I think I can't find the piece of paper that you're after. That my feeling is that if we had a scrutiny working group, it could inform what officers are considering and basically then be member driven rather than officer driven. If that's what we want to do. So I'm not volunteering for the scrutiny, but I think it could be quite a lot of value in the work that we would do on it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Roos.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I suppose we could look at this scrutiny as a way of us saying to, well, go forth and we support your efforts, with our input. So I don't see it as doubling up someone's work if they're already working on it. Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any further comments? Thanks, Lincoln. Did you just send me the process file?
Yes. I found it, so I'll share it.
Thank you very much. Expert on SharePoint there. Assistant Town Clerk, would you like to, could you bring that up on the screen if you've got the flow chart there with that?
That's great, is there?
I don't believe there is a flow chart. I suspect the chairman's thinking of a Dorset document. Ours says there are several ways scrutiny can be done.
That sounds good.
Okay, if we can find the process flow chart, I'll help us make the right decision, but I know the scrutiny has been accepted under, obviously, the process request, which is what Councillor Wakeling has said. So, members, we do have a proposal to move forward with the scrutiny that is proposed by Councillor Thurman and Roos. Is there any further comments on that proposal? No, we're going to move to a vote. All those in favour of conducting a scrutiny review? Those against? And no abstentions, and so that request is cancelled. My next question to committee is, do we have volunteers to sit on that scrutiny panel? Councillor Harris, Councillor Morrell.
Three council Wakeling, isn't
We can have external members of Councillor Wakeling also, and we will include that on the roundup should any members do that. Members, do we want to set any timeframes on this?
Before the next one is
Yeah. We can have that information when the next application goes in. I'm just aware that we want the scrutiny to be over with before the election.
Taking into consideration the elections, we can either go with it'd be quite a tight squeeze. I think there's a meeting on the 27th or, around 20th of January for, I don't know. But anyway, we could look at the even next ENS or the one after. So within the next.
I think the next ENS is probably too tight because we do need to do some proper intelligence information for the scrutiny. You know, they may want to speak to local businesses, or the bid, and local publicans, bits and pieces like that. So, you know, to have time to do an effective scrutiny, I think we're probably looking for a report back, not next, but one after that. Councillor James?
Surely something like this has just got to be short and sweet and simple, because, you know, it's, as Councillor Wakeling has said, it's we're paying for something that doesn't really give us a benefit. This is really the night of the economy, and it should be them that deal with it. And if we are going to sit down with some of them and say, well, look, you know, this is how it is. We are not going to pay for it anymore because it's not really our cup of tea. It's something you should be doing. They've got to then either take up the mantle or they've got to throw their toys out the car. It's one or the other.
It's been done. Yes.
That's scrutiny. That's scrutiny. Right.
Something like this.
So, okay, so I think we've got a clear message for the working group and officers that we want this really done for the 6th of March, which is the last environmental services. Councillor Berman.
Is there a deadline on when the next application is going or work begins on it?
No, so I'm not sure when the deadline is, but we can ensure that we.
Yeah, just don't want to spend the money or.
In fact, the officers are already working on this. There should be some intelligence. Scrutiny.
Thank you, Chair.
Right, moving on to item 12, information items. They are exactly what they said on the tin, information items, and no questions were pre-notified or received on those items. So members are asked to note those, which Nikki, it was going so well with my chairman's notes. I was so happy to receive them, and then I realised I got item 10 for close, but we're on to 12.
I've got some questions.
So we move on forward to item 13, which is just to thank you for all your input this evening. There's been some, sorry, councillor James.
I want to ask two questions, please, on these ones, and it is, the one about the play parks, Pottery Lane, replace the multi-climb. I don't know when that was decided or who by, because I've obviously missed something if I have, but it would be nice as ward councillors to be told these things are going to be replaced. And also the other one about, I think they're going to do some summer activities in Links Road, which I'd asked for before, but again, it'd be nice as ward councillor to be told that that is actually on the list to happen. Thank you. That's my questions.
I can come back, Jane probably can come back on the maintenance. The play area that is in the asset maintenance plan is an essential piece of work to be carried out, which went to both finance and governance and full council for approval.
Well, I missed that one, but yeah.
So that's why that's been chosen to have the seal money and change it on. I got that right.
Right.
Second point, Assistant Town Clerk.
So the events are noting, and this is the first time they've been published,
Right, okay.
so that's why it's there. We haven't seen it
But it
before.
would be nice as ward councillor if we actually got notification that we used to get, to tell us that these events were gonna come forward and on the list that we'd asked for. Thank you.
Okay, being generous, like, the Assistant Town Clerk told me no questions on any of those items. So, yes. Right, just now then to close the meeting, obviously, thank you members for your input. Good debate in the chamber this evening. So at 8:50, I'm